Resident Evil 3 Remake is a failure, is what you probably have heard if you played any of the Resident Evil games for some time now. There are countless posts and comments about how Resident Evil 3 Remake has a lot of flaws and ultimately fails at being anything remotely close to what a true remake of the classic Resident Evil 3 game should be. But why is that? Why is the Resident Evil 3 Remake such a disappointment to fans? I've always asked this question and never really could get a good answer, especially as someone who has never played the original Resident Evil 3. I've always liked the RE3 remake, and sure, I know it is a weak link out of the remake trilogy, but I could never quite understand why there's so much criticism around a game that I had so much fun playing. So in order to fully understand what makes the RE3 remake such a bad remake, I played both the original Resident Evil 3 and the Resident Evil 3 remake on stream. I spent a lot of time analyzing both games and trying to understand what made them so different. So right off the bat, it's strikingly apparent how different Raccoon City is depicted between the two games. Both games do a fantastic job at making you feel like you're in Apocalypse, but there's something missing in the remake. Visually, the remake does a fantastic job, but it fails to capture Raccoon City in its early stages of an outbreak. I know that sounds weird, considering I just praised how the game looks visually, but hear me out. In the original game, as you explore the downtown area of Raccoon City, you'll eventually come across survivors being attacked by zombies. You can hear them screaming or even shooting the dead off camera. You'll see them fleeing, and if you head over to the direction that they ran off to, you may just come across their dead bodies. You can even see them turn into zombies within a matter of moments. In the RE3 remake, you get none of this. I mean, yes, there is a crowd of people that are fleeing from zombies in the beginning of the game, but there's nowhere in the game where you see any survivor trying to save themselves or hear anyone screaming off camera. I know this isn't a huge difference between the two games, but it's the small details that make a game have personality. Even the characters within the world have changed from the original game. When you first meet Brad Wickers in the original game, he is terrified, and he warns Jill about something that is hunting down all STARS members.
We're both gonna die.
What are you saying?
You'll see. He's after STARS members. There's no escape.
Which is eventually revealed to be Nemesis. This small interaction showed how much fear and terror Brad was going through, and gives the player the same fear of what Jill will eventually have to deal with later in the game. But this is completely different when you meet Brad in the remake. While people are running for their lives, you see Brad just casually strolling without much fear at all. It's just shocking to see someone who was originally supposed to be a scared and frightful person just casually walk while people are scrambling around terrified by the sight of zombies. While it's nice that they gave Brad a more heroic death in the remake compared to him just being killed by Nemesis in the original,
Jill!
Brad!
We've gotta... Jill! Help!
it still feels wrong because that's not his character. He doesn't have this unflinching or self-sacrificing characteristics in the original game. It just mainly feels bad for the fact that he lost all remnants of who he was. Carlos and Jill have also been changed from their original portrayal, most significantly Carlos. Now I'll be honest, I think Capcom did well with Jill and Carlos in the remake. I know some people are upset with the way Jill is in the remake, but honestly, I don't think it's that bad at all. To me, they honestly gave us more insight into the character of Jill. In the original game, she doesn't have a lot of dialogue, but when she does talk, she's still that same confident and courageous character that's portrayed in the remake. I think we get to see a lot more of her internal struggles from learning about the crimes of what Umbrella has done. Especially in the beginning of the game, a cutscene plays where she has a nightmare of turning into a zombie. Overall, I really did enjoy Jill in both games, but on the other hand, I can't say the same for Carlos. He was originally portrayed as a character who toyed with Jill, but it wasn't charming at all. He honestly just annoyed me throughout the game, as he always had some cheesy one-liners for Jill. He was just forgettable. Not an awful character, but definitely not amazing. In the remake, however, Carlos has a better personality, as he still plays with Jill, but it doesn't come out badly. He has serious moments too, and has much more involvement with the story, as you can definitely feel his presence more than you did in the original game. I think what helps a lot for Carlos is that he feels helpful in the remake, as in his original portrayal, he consistently leaves Jill, forcing her to do majority of the work by herself. My biggest disappointment by far from the remake is what they did to Nemesis. Don't get me wrong, Nemesis looks really good in the remake. Capcom did a fantastic job with updating his design, and in my opinion, it makes him even look more terrifying than he did in the original game. But obviously, the outward appearance of a character can only get them so far, and in Nemesis' case, is precisely that. He is a character who has an amazing design, but falls short from being that same terrifying antagonist like in the original RE3 game. Your first encounter with Nemesis in the original game is truly terrifying. Right when Jill finds her way to the RPD station, she witnesses her colleague, a scared Brad Wickers, get grasped by his head and brutally impaled by Nemesis, all within a matter of moments. This scene was purposefully placed in the game to give the audience a clear distinction that Nemesis will accomplish his goal to kill every STARS member without hesitation nor question. He will stop at nothing to succeed in his mission. The player will learn this instantly after that cutscene, as he will rush towards you without giving you any sort of time to react. Meanwhile, in the RE3 remake, your first encounter with Nemesis is quite different. A cutscene of Nemesis abruptly crashing through a wall, launching Jill across the room, will occur in the beginning of the game. The scene starts off well, and does a perfect job displaying the violent and destructive methods Nemesis will go to in order to finish this mission. However, it quickly falls apart in just a matter of moments. Jill narrowly escapes Nemesis, dodging all of his punches and even a boulder that he chucks right at her. But right here is the first sign of Nemesis not being the same as how he was like in the original game. He finally grabs Jill, exactly how he did with Brad Wickers, and what does he do? He simply tosses her away. That scene alone destroyed everything that Nemesis is as a character. Nemesis is a bioorganic weapon whose primary objective is to eliminate every STARS member, and when he finally has the opportunity to do so, he throws it away? Now I understand that if he had killed Jill in this moment, the game would be done and that's that. But my question is, why even add that part in? There are a plethora of scenes where Nemesis has the opportunity to kill Jill, yet he doesn't take them. Not to mention that this whole sequence of events within the apartment happens through scripted interactions where you cannot fail, which loses the feeling of even having to worry when Nemesis chases you. It honestly just makes Nemesis feel like a joke. Here we have this supposedly unstoppable antagonist that will do anything in his power to eliminate STARS members, yet he can't do it when given the opportunity. Even the times you do finally face Nemesis within non-scripted interactions, Nemesis doesn't feel like a threat. He doesn't do a full sprint towards you or attack you quickly like he would in the original game. He just feels slow and honestly quite predictable. Whenever he did appear, I never felt scared or worried about him stopping me from progressing further through the game. I could just simply run or dodge his attacks without any worry. I mean, come on, look how easy it was for me to dodge Nemesis right here. As you progress through the game, Nemesis will eventually morph into a dog-like figure. They turn Nemesis into this beast, and I was all for it up until I actually fought him. It was very interesting to see Nemesis morph into a different form, but it was implemented terribly. The fight you have with Nemesis is literally him either running in circles on structures, or him chasing you on the ground in a circle. This just feels like you're in some simple minigame, and nothing more. It generally is no different from a fight earlier with Nemesis when he has a flamethrower. You run in circles and shoot at him. That's basically it. Instead of him doing some sort of new thing, he just does the same thing with a fresh coat of paint. While it's nice to see Nemesis being able to transform, if it isn't executed in the right way, what even is the point of adding it? It's just disappointing to see such a frightening character such as Nemesis lose all the qualities that made him frightening in the first place. One of the biggest and most valid criticisms I've seen about the remake is the amount of cut content from the original game. The map for Raccoon City is significantly smaller in the remake. What made the original so interesting for me was that Raccoon City actually felt like a city because there are so many pathways to explore, and I won't lie, if it's your first time playing, it can be quite confusing when trying to trace back to previous areas. But what we get in the remake is just a compact version of what was originally a large map. Matter of fact, many areas throughout the RE3 remake are just completely scrapped from the original, the clock tower being one of the most significant areas that was cut. I know that they got rid of the clock tower and added the Nest Lab to fill its place. It's just sad to see this because the clock tower had so many key events that actually mattered to the story. This is where Jill believes she'll eventually be able to escape, only for Nemesis to shoot down the helicopter that was going to rescue her. It's where she gets infected, and it's up to Carlos to find a cure. The clock tower just had so much going on, and it even had a unique gothic style to it. Meanwhile, all that you get from the labs in the remake are just simple plain white walls and floors. It just feels very repetitive and lazy. Instead of having an area to explore like you did with the clock tower, they just gave us a lab that has a very linear design that doesn't have any redeeming qualities about it. Unfortunately, that isn't the only area that was cut from the game. They took out the city park, graveyard, and dead factory, all of which had different and unique designs. When you take out that many areas, it's hard to even compare the remake with the original. All of these areas gave variety in terms of level design, which helped engage the player throughout the entire game. But in the remake, they just gave us a bunch of reused assets from RE2 Remake instead of redesigning areas from the original. So the question remains, was the Resident Evil 3 remake a failure? While not a failure in my eyes, I would be lying if the remake does not have significant flaws that hold it back from being a remake that the fans truly wanted. Let me know what you think about the remake. Thanks for watching.